My family has been in this house I'm sitting in since 1918 or so. My great grandfather built it.
A decade ago, Paul Liotta's century-old family house was wrecked by Hurricane Sandy.
I got up to like a little bit of the second floor. This was all like gutted out.
Liotta reports for the Staten Island Advance. He's been tracking the delayed East Shore Seawall, a 5-mile-long coastal barrier which is expected to mitigate such disasters happening in the future.
The South Shore Coastal Storm Risk Management Project, which actually will protect the east shore of Staten Island, will be built by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And it's a 5.3-mile long project that will protect Staten Island shoreline with a series of buried seawalls, berms, and levees.
Janie Bavishi runs the Mayor's Office of Resiliency, which oversees a multi-billion-dollar plan to defend the city from an increasingly hostile climate. She says it's urgent to get the East Shore seawall built.
I think the most important thing to remember about this project is that the communities that will be protected by this project were actually among the most heavily impacted by Hurricane Sandy. More than half of the New Yorkers who lost their lives from Sandy were Staten Islanders that died either on the East Shore or the South Shore of Staten Island.
But there's a bureaucratic holdup. Construction on the seawall can't start until adjacent Great Kills Park is cleaned up of radioactive waste.
Basically, the holdup now is that there's this like environmental remediation that has to happen at the southern end of the project. It's related to like landfill strategies that, we're talking like 40s, 50s, 1930s even. But what they used to fill it in a lot of the time was not environmentally sound stuff. So I think one of the things they found are like X-ray machines, that kind of thing.
Work on the seawall is stalled because the city and state are in a disagreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as to who is responsible for cleaning up the radioactive park. The Corps, which in part undertakes civil works projects to prevent disasters, announced the seawall project in 2015. In 2017, the city, state, Congress, and Army Corps signed a protective partnership agreement funneling millions of federal funds into the wall, cutting red tape, and launching the design phase. Bavishi says the city and state understood that the Army Corps would be responsible for doing the work and the city would foot the bill. But that changed in 2020.
So about a year ago, the Army Corps informed the city and the state that they had changed their interpretation of an internal policy, and this would prevent them from performing the remediation without a policy waiver from the Army Corps headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Army Corps headquarters denied the waiver request. This year, a spokesperson told the news outlet, The City, such a cleanup job has little precedent for Army Corps, so it's unlikely DCHQ would sign off on it. Liotta says Army Corps is doing other remediation work in the park, but not the toxic site near the Seawall project, because it's a superfund, a contaminated area the federal government seeks to have cleaned up.
They are handling work in the park, but this little strip of land just outside the park, they're not going to do, apparently. And that has been what everybody's been trying to figure out. How do we get the Army Corps of Engineers to like move forward with what it had previously led people to believe they were going to handle.
Our attempts to get a response from the Corps were to no avail. Liotta is trying to get under the surface to see why exactly the Army Corps seemed to change its mind. He's waiting on a Freedom of Information Act request, known as a FOIA.
I have a FOIA out that I've been waiting a while for that I don't know if I'll ever get back. Just kind of trying to get a behind-the-scenes look at what exactly transpired.
Liotta says the initial 2022 completion date on the wall will likely be pushed back to 2026. Meanwhile, Bavishi says Army Corps is working on other pieces of the project.
They're actually going to be focusing on interior drainage construction first. Basically, whenever we build a flood wall, we want to make sure that we also make improvements to drainage behind the flood wall so that when it rains, we're not creating a bathtub and trapping the water in. And so those are the contracts that are currently teed up to move into construction first.
The Resiliency Office has many projects underway to protect the city from the dangerous weather wrought by climate change. But Bavishi says the East Shore seawall is front of mind.
we consider this an incredibly high priority project, and we're working to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. The mayor himself actually engaged Secretary Haaland, the Secretary of the Department of the Interior, so that we can explore other solutions to get this work done with the National Park Service. So those conversations are quite active and seem promising. We're working very hard to make sure that this doesn't end up being an issue that holds the project timeline up.
Liadis says U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer is putting up a big fight to get the needed work underway. Borough President James Otto and Member of Congress Nicole Maliotakis have joined Schumer in the battle to get the seawall built. Shannon Ayala for DiverseCITY.